So you went over the physical part of how you got through your injury. What is some of the chemistry behind some of it?
So using psilocybin as a performance aid.
Meathead to meathead. How do people get big?
You were 313 years old, and I think you said when you graduated you were
169.
How?
Are you always excited to work out?
No. So that makes doing the stuff that isn't exactly the most fun 1,000,000 times worth it for me.
Sleep. You know, it's great to talk to you today. I'm enjoying my time with you. How are you doing, honey? And it's just like
that's one step removed from pornography. It really is. It's porn you can put on YouTube.
It reminds me of an old CD from Adam Sandler where he's like, "Are we working out or are we having sex?" And it's just the audio that you're hearing.
Oh, what?
And the girl's like, "We're definitely having sex." And the guy can't like pick up. It's like, "No, it sounds like maybe doing sets of squats or something." They're like, "No, we're definitely fucking."
what is this from?
It's just from old Adam Sandler.
Dude,
thing.
Adam Sandler used to be all about like the CD releases, like the holiday specials and the songs and whatnot. Do you know about that?
No.
Have you, dude? Oh, my
so
God.
good.
You,
Fuck me in my goat ass.
yeah,
the
so
goat.
good.
the Hanukkah song and all that
Of course.
stuff. Like,
yeah.
I must not know because we're around the same age. So I'm surprised I don't know about
Dude,
this.
you need after the podcast, you need to check out some old Adam Sandler songs. They're hilarious. Super, probably all of them completely not politically correct at this point.
Yeah.
But funny.
Very funny.
The
Got some
Hanukkah
jokes.
song does ring a bell, though. I know it's probably an elementary school thing. It rings a bell.
Well,
Yeah.
you probably maybe didn't watch it, but you've seen like an ad for 8 Crazy Nights, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was Adam Sandler.
So the song
He wrote all the songs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Hanukkah song, because in the song he's like, we don't have one night, we had 8 crazy nights.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So he's talking about Hanukkah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, there's your Adam Sandler history for the day.
Joe and Andy and Jake, they came to my house last night and we had ate some meat and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. You
But
did.
these guys walked in and they looked at the slingshot, like the first slingshot ever, and they're like, "That came out when I was a kid."
It did.
And I was like, "Damn."
What year was that?
I don't know. It was like 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were-
almost half your life ago. Right?
We were literally like
13.
like high school. It's crazy.
That is. You're old as fuck.
Did you have pubes back then?
Hey. They started coming in.
Yeah.
You know, even now, they're a bit thin, but I mean, it is what it is.
You got to do what you got.
That was fucked up.
I was like, no, you can't say that out here, bro.
Edit that shit. Bleep that motherfucking shit. You need to bleep that, Andrew. You need to bleep that.
Maybe I could have you do a voiceover saying something else.
Just bleep it. Just bleep it. We don't even want them to know what the fuck I said. Bleep part 2. Just bleep both words. I fucked up. I'm not trying to cancel myself, dog.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, oh no.
His
Like,
microphone doesn't work anymore. That's so strange.
10-second period. We had some audio difficulties during this period of time. Pay no mind to the laughter.
Now we're bleeping that shit. Oh my God.
Oh,
we just got to start over.
Where were we?
We were nowhere.
The
slingshot
literally
was
never
first.
got
Yeah.
anywhere yet.
Well, no, because you brought up about how you were like just all the old websites and like all that. It was so nostalgic because like Andy mentioned it and I was like, holy shit, I haven't thought about that in a decade. And it's like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah, I've been around for a long ass time, I guess. So you're just coming off of a world record squat. You've set world records before. How many times have you broken the all-time world record squat?
This is the 4th competition in a row in which I've broken the squat record. So fourth time in 3 years because I broke it 6 months ago at the end of September at the competition I did, and then it's been about 6-7 months since then, and broke it again. Just chipped it, so it was only like a 1 kilo increase, so like 2.2 pounds. But like we were talking about, this meet was just kind of like a trial run, test the waters thing. So super happy about it, and it's setting me up for even better one down in the future. So.
You were injured pretty badly, like I guess several months ago, or maybe like a year or two ago, something like that. And did that start to bring about the inability to bench press because I believe your neck was jacked up, right? Did that kind of bring about some depression, anxiety? Did that kind of lead you to kind of think, man, I don't know, like this might be over?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a year ago that it happened. It actually happened in 2018 when that viral video of the barbell bending around my neck, that was the actual onset of the injury. Like people see this video and they see me manage to like get out of the position and they're like, oh, the guy's fine. He's just an idiot. He used a shitty barbell. But what you don't see is when I punch my way out of it, I twist. Well, yeah, that's the next part. But I twist a little bit, and I end up like what I did was I herniated my C6 and C7 vertebrae in my neck because like it didn't bend as if it was like a buffalo bar or a duffalo bar. It bent to a singular point. So
like
that
a triangle.
The triangle and that singular.
See if you can
point,
find it on YouTube, Andrew.
Yeah, it put a lot of pressure on my neck, and I ended up I hurt myself pretty badly. I didn't even realize that I did on that day, but it caused a compression injury to occur to my thoracodorsal and dorsal scapular nerves, which ended up causing almost complete atrophy of my left tricep, left pec, and left lat. And I dealt.
It's crazy that you could hurt that neck. I mean, that's a big ass, neck with giant traps.
Yeah, 12 years of wrestling, man. It'll do it. But it really kind of like caused some pretty shitty things to come about from it. And I wasn't expecting it to happen. And I couldn't really put my finger on like what the actual cause was until like later after the symptoms started to come about and it was presenting itself as an actual nerve injury. But by that point, I didn't know what to do. And I really, like over the course since like 2018 up until 2020, I spent tens of thousands of dollars, tried so many different modalities of therapy, tried to fix it in just the best ways that I possibly can. You see how it came together to one point. And it would get better and then it would get worse and it would get better, it would get worse. And I struggled to get my bench back. There was a period of time, like Andrew pulled up the video after, where I literally couldn't lock out anything more than 185 pounds. Like there was no pain. There was no like actual like thing that I could feel. I just literally could not extend my left arm. I would literally go to grab a water bottle and it would just fall out of my hands. Complete disconnect from the actual like squeeze my hand, use my muscles to the actual action of doing so. And when I got to the first time I broke that raw squat record in 2020, I was honestly thinking that was going to be like my final act in powerlifting, and I was going to retire afterwards because I started competing in 2007. I've been doing it for a long, long time. And I wanted to hang my hat on something, and I really kind of got to the point where it was like, I'm the squat guy. I can't hit a total anymore because I've hurt myself to this degree. But it was one of those things, like we spoke about it yesterday, where it's like you get to a point where you walk away on your own terms or you're forced to walk away. And I felt as though I was kind of being forced to walk away. So it was like, I'm just going to do it before I push myself deeper into a hole and hurt myself either through the lifting or through the emotional distress that is causing me or that is being caused to me because I can't do what I wanted to do. So that's where I was in 2020. But then like we talked about on the podcast yesterday, I met Jake and I was so desperate for help, or I was out, and he convinced me. He was like, I think that I can fix you. I think that we can do it. And I was like, okay, one more shot. You know, I'm either 100% in on something or I'm out. And I told him, like, I'm 100% in. Tell me what to do. Diet, lifestyle, training, whatever. We did it. It was some of the hardest training I've ever done. I had to really take a step back. But at this meet, I benched 496 pounds. At the meet I did 6 months ago, I benched 523. And I feel like I'm back. So it feels like a second chance, but it's awesome.
What did some of that rehab look like? I know there's a lot of things involved, but let's maybe start on the physical end.
So I was talking to a Graham, the barefoot sprinter out front about it, just detailing it a little bit. And it's really atypical when it comes to powerlifting. It was very much not powerlifting training, but it was very, very energy systems based and very like in the sense of like strength training and like powerlifting and just like the education or literature behind strength training. You know the specific adaptations to impose demands, like the SAID principle. Mm-hmm. But if you peel that back and think about how, okay, I need to relearn how to use my arm. How do I put myself in a position where those are the adaptations that I need to make? The way that we structured training, I was essentially like low carbohydrate prior to training in order to like have not a lot of muscle or liver glycogen or blood sugar. And when I would go to train, I would literally start off damn near every day with multiple rounds of like 2 minutes to 3 minutes of assault bike sprinting, which 2 minutes and 3 minutes, that's not a long time, but to sprint for that period of time, incredibly difficult. I felt like I was going to puke every goddamn session. Because then after that, after I would deplete all of my muscle glycogen, all of my liver glycogen, all of my blood sugar, then I would go into a position where I was very focused, and the movements I were doing was very oriented towards like physical therapy rehab for people with spinal cord injuries. So push-ups on kettlebell handles, the kettlebell upside down presses, like things that are demanding a lot of stability and a lot of like coordination. Because if I deplete all of my muscle glycogen and all of that stored energy system, all I can rely on is the neurological aspect to move the weight in that manner. So I'm specifically adapting to those demands that I've placed on my body by setting up the environment, which is my body, where that's the only option that I can do. And we did 6 months of stuff like that. I didn't squat, I didn't bench press, and after 6 months, Jake was like, okay, we're going to have a day where we do close grip incline. And I was like, because of it affected the long head of my tricep, which is predominantly like overhead work. And I was like, I haven't been able to do that in 6 years. I'm really unsure about this. And he's like, well, okay, we've done all these things that are setting you up to be able to utilize that tricep. I've been getting a bit more activation. I can feel it better. So let's just see. And I put one plate on close grip incline, and it worked. Put a plate and a quarter, put 2 plates and a quarter, put 3 plates, and I hit 315 for 3 reps.
Damn.
The first time I came back to that movement, and I cried my goddamn eyes out in the gym.
Yeah.
And from then on, it was like, how could I not buy in even further? Because I was like, oh my God, I felt like it was as if I was relearning how to walk. And then you have that the Forrest Gump moment where the braces fly off my legs, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm good. I can do this. And it's like, shit, I can do this. And we started incorporating more actual powerlifting based training and getting back to getting my pressing strength, developing my pressing strength again. And that's exactly what we're doing now, because like we put a lot of emphasis in my deadlift and my grip in this particular off season. But now that is back, because grip was a big issue for me, but I've been able to clench this hand and keep it closed. Now we're really kind of doubling down on not just getting my bench back to where it was, but actually regaining and like going past my tricep strength that was there in the past. So hopefully having a second chance and feeling as though I am a new lifter again, I'm hopeful I can get even better than I was before, which is a crazy, crazy feeling to have as someone who had their like athletic peak and then fell off due to injury. And it's like, I feel as though I'm there again. And it's crazy. It's the most unique thing I've ever experienced, but it's awesome. It's like, how could I not be pumped up or excited about this stuff?
It's really pretty amazing that you were able to meet Jake at that time. He's your coach, but you guys are also friends now. Mm-hmm. And we've done multiple podcasts with you and Jake. But you here alone, what is so special about Jake? What makes him, because like from the water cut thing that he helped you out with to this thing where you had multiple people that tried to help you out and they couldn't figure it out. Then Jake comes in and he has this idea of how you're going to do it and you guys execute and now you're where you are. What is so special about Jake from what you've seen?
Dude, you guys can tell on the podcast when we were talking about it, he's talking about, oh, this company does this. He's horrible at selling himself. But that's what makes him so unique and so special, and why I think I love the guy as much as I do, because he's just one of the most genuine individuals on the planet. But on top of being genuine, he's one of the most intellectual and most inquisitive people on the planet. Like his hobbies and his like enjoyment activities, like the things he likes to do, are reading textbooks and uncovering new information and figuring out how to connect the dots, where a lot of other people, we have this information over here and this information over here, but we don't know how to bring it together. Jake is the most skilled individual I've ever met, who can mesh different topics and integrate them with one another and make them work and make them cohesive and build on top of things. He's the type of guy, I honestly don't know. I always forget to ask him, but I don't think he actually has a college degree. But he's taken enough classes to have, I believe, like 2.5 separate PhDs, but he just won't do the normal route because he's like, this is a waste of time. But he's the type of guy that will like have a conversation with a doctor, a physician, a professional sports player, a professional powerlifter, incredible businessmen, and just make these like connections. And it's like, man, that was so simple. Like what? Like I already knew that, but I didn't have his particular approach to connect the dots, and he's the master at connecting those dots. And I think that's why he's so good at what he does, because it's a combination of curiosity but also inspiration in himself to continually better everything and gain more knowledge, because it's not just about knowing stuff, it's knowing how to apply it and when to apply it and why it may be beneficial here but not here, and maybe here and maybe there. Yeah. He's honestly one of the most special dudes on the planet. And it's why it's always a pleasure just having a conversation with him, or making him, because he's not a social guy, but it's like forcing him, get in front of a goddamn microphone or record a video, because someone is going to find some value in this. So it's awesome.
Having a Jake in your corner kind of seems like the way he talks about Jake is kind of how I hear people talk about John Danaher, who've been able to coach under you. You know who John Danaher is?
I'm familiar.
Yeah. All he does is think about jiu-jitsu. All he's watching is wrestling and random grappling videos from random tournaments, and then he helps his guys figure out how to implement these things from this other martial art into jiu-jitsu. And these guys are going ahead of the pack versus everybody else. And it kind of seems like that's Jake.
It's why I'm so lucky. I consider myself so fortunate to be in the circle with people like Jake and like Andy, because they're the one, like, I genuinely believe those are the guys who are on like the cusp of pushing professional sports to the next level. And being someone who, like, I'm the type of guy that has like been doing this at the high level, but I'm in that middle ground where it's like I gladly call myself a stupid meathead. I'm a dumb meathead, but I'm the dumb meathead who recognizes I'm a dumb meathead, and I want to elevate myself as much as I can to be able to hang with those guys. And I know how intelligent and how pragmatic they both are, so when they give me information and they explain something to me, I'm like, okay, this is how I connect the dots and make it happen. And it's just a really, really unique combination with like Jake and I and Andy, because it's like when I have guys like that in my corner and I'm as willing to learn and do things differently, because I did the water cut differently after doing the same thing for 15 years. But Jake had an idea and I'm like, sure, let's fucking try it, man. Let's see what happens. I'm willing enough to listen and willing enough to understand and like take those risks, that it's like, with those guys in my corner, with this team that we have, how could I lose? Even if I fail and even if I fall short, seeing that I had 7 years with no PR, 7 years with desperation and hopeless situation where I just kept grinding my face against a wall for 1 pound PRs, whatever. Even if I fall short this time, cool. We just learned a little bit more and we can make it better for the next one. Yeah. There's no losing here. And it's such a cool situation to be in.
So you went over the physical part of how you got through your injury. What is some of the chemistry behind some of it?
We talked about it before, but like the carnitines and cholines, basically just up regulating my own like neurology and basically putting me in a position to make those neurological adaptations as quickly as I can and learn how to. It's neuroplasticity. It's the phenomenon of like basically it's both regrowing nerve pathways, but also like relearning and repatterning how the nervous system connects to the actual musculature and how it works. So I would, like we talked about NuPept, that was one of the biggest keys in relearning how to use my arm. I would take pre-workout NuPept paired with a carnitine and choline, but with more emphasis on the choline because of its interaction with the nervous system, and it will essentially make you able to recruit more motor units at a greater rate. So in doing so, it's like, okay, I can learn quicker. And then even some implementation of like psilocybin, because there's some research, like I'm sure you guys have seen it, where it's like psilocybin will increase like the rate at which neuroplasticity can occur, and you can open up different neural pathways and think differently. If you can think differently with the use of an ergogenic aid like that, if you think differently, that inherently means you should be able to learn and experience things differently, right? So pairing that with a carnitine and choline and a NuPept, it puts you in the best position to learn a new skill. And even if I'm not like learning how to play chess or like play the guitar or whatever, I'm relearning how to use this arm. And if you look at it as an actual skill acquisition thing, it only makes sense to use those things. So
what was the amount of psilocybin? What'd that look like?
It depends. So I would for the bench stuff, it was like 100 to 200 milligrams, like a true microdose. Because with bench and squat, you want to kind of emphasize focal vision to a degree. You need to focus on something, and psilocybin is a drug that's going to like basically prevent focal vision from happening, where it's like if you've ever taken a higher dose, you get the wavies over here and the color fluctuations because it amplifies your peripheral vision and takes away from the focal vision in the center of your eyes. Not very great for squat or bench, so you don't want to go too high on that. You just want to use like the minimal dose to encourage that learning. But when it comes to my deadlift and relearning how to grip, almost zero focal vision is required for a deadlift because the bar it's not connected to you. It's not directly loading your spine. It's literally just hanging here. You could theoretically do a deadlift with your eyes closed and not really have much of a performance drop. So using psilocybin as a performance aid in that context for me, and this is not me recommending this is what people do, because it gets a little weird, but I would use 600 to 800 milligrams on my high priority deadlift days. Wow. And you can see it in like, if we went back and like looked at my Instagram posts from my last heavy deadlifts going into the meet, I'm incredibly like flowy and loosey-goosey, and I'm listening to music and like just doing these little wavy things because that's what I was leaning into. It was essentially me learning how to be a different athlete in that context and learning how to pull in a completely opposite way than how I've approached my squat and bench in the past.
But here, this video, it wasn't on meet day, right? It was before meet day, or you did it on meet day?
Oh shit! 800 milligrams on meet day.
Wow.
And there's a reason why we've talked about my keratoconus and like my degenerative eye disease. There's a reason that I wear the red glasses when I deadlift to help reduce that focal vision in a way as well.
Oh no, I don't think. Have we talked about your eye disease? I don't. I personally don't remember.
I think we might have off air or whatever. It's nothing crazy. It's literally I just have really poor vision. I have my dad had to have cornea transplants a couple of years ago. I'm basically going to need the same thing at some point. Keratoconus, it's a thinning of the corneas, like that front layer of your eye, and it causes like scar tissue to occur, and then the scar tissue will basically just like block your vision a little bit. So I just have really poor vision in the left eye. Right eye is better, but I'm probably going to need cornea transplants at some point. It's just just a hereditary thing that's just kind of a bitch, but whatever.
Gotcha.
Do the glasses make you a little bit stronger?
I think so. They make me look a little bit cooler, so I feel stronger. Yeah, somebody said I looked like a Bond villain, and I'm like, yeah, good. A little bit.
Like that's what I was going for.
Yeah, exactly. Or Doc Ock from Spider-Man.
So we asked Jake and Andy about strength and about getting big, and they basically nerded us to death and gave us the runaround. So I need some straight answers, meathead to meathead, and our meathead fans need this as well. How do people get big?
Structure a training plan in a way that you are going to buy in the most way that you can. So something that you're going to enjoy, something that is sustainable for you, something that is going to push you enough, but not too much, and do that for a long, long time. And eat well. Whole food sources. We talked about it last night. Like most of the time, whole food sources, adequate protein intake, peri-workout nutrition, like carbs around your workout, fat and protein everywhere else. If you're really struggling with gaining weight, put some carbs elsewhere. If you're really struggling to gain weight, don't be afraid to eat to get big sometimes. We all go through those phases where it's like, I remember when I was trying to, we talked about it. I was a big kid. I was like 300 pounds at like 13, 14 years old, lost over 100 pounds. And then I get to a point where I'm trying to gain weight, trying to gain muscle. And we all go through that phase where it's like, man, I don't want to eat, but I'm staring at this big bowl of rice with cut up steak in it and all this stuff. And I'm doing shots of olive oil and shit like that. And sometimes you have to be a little bit uncomfortable to achieve some goals that you want, but just something in which you can buy into, progressively overload, have fun, and stay consistent for a long, long period of time and progress in some way and just eat well. And you're going to be hard pressed not to succeed.
Yeah.
So,
Pet Project family, we talk about meat all the time on the podcast because protein is essential for your health. That's why I partner with Piedmontese. And if you head to their website, they have so much different types of beef. They have beef sticks, beef jerky, tons of different cuts of meat. You should go check them out. Andrew, how can they learn more?
You guys got to head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is over $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
You talked about it a bit, but like you were 300 at 13 years old. And I think you said when you graduated, you were 178.
169.
169. Dude. Damn. How? Like, and I'm really curious, like, what did you do? How did you change your lifestyle at that point? Because
this is not recommended at all. Because this was not like done in a smart manner. This was me being a kid who did not know how to eat and did not like look into it or research it. I was like, I just am going to listen to my wrestling coaches and other wrestling friends and do what they do. Okay. Which is why I still struggle with some like emotional connectivity to eating and like I have like a tendency to binge. I've never been like diagnosed with anything, but there's a period I wrestled in college, period of time where I would make myself vomit after eating and like do some crazy shit like that. That's not good for you. But in high school, there was like periods of time where for wrestling, like ask any high school wrestler, anybody watching this, you know the stupid shit that people would do where it's like, oh, you only eat a head of lettuce for lunch and a tuna packet for dinner and you get a 3-mile run for dessert. Like that was the type of shit that I did to lose the weight. And there's a reason I didn't lose the weight in 1 year. I would do the thing where I would lose a bunch of weight during wrestling season, gain a bit of it back, lose a bunch of weight, gain, lose, and only until I got to that 169, like that low mark, where that was the weight I walked into the state wrestling championships, and I was a good wrestler, but I was skinny, and it's like I didn't know anything about like nutritional science. I didn't know anything about like strength training. I just followed the powerlifting club at my school. I did what the other wrestlers did. I did what all my buddies would tell me to do. And it achieved the goal. But getting out of high school, I was like, I need to do something differently because I need to start building some muscle And literally, I was one of those guys that was on the bodybuilding.com forums back in the day. Like, that's where I got a lot of my information when I was like 17, 18, and just started applying stuff like that as best I could. So,
where do you get your information from nowadays?
Just like, I mean, there's so many great resources out there. Like, it's about finding valuable pieces and taking the value from it, and then just being like, maybe not that all the way bought in. Like, there's Renaissance periodization. There's the guys that you have on your podcast. There's Jake. There's Andy. There's such a wealth of information. Joel Jameson. I could list a bunch of people, but like, that's one of the greatest things about social media. And I don't want to be one of those guys where it's like I get all my info from social media, but social media it makes the world incredibly smaller. So you can gain access to all of these people who have degrees, do research. They're the pioneers of their particular avenue. Mm-hmm. And if you just pay attention and understand that all these guys are like, we're just people with smartphones. Mm-hmm. If you maybe shoot somebody an email, pay someone for a consultation, do that, just put a little bit of your skin in the game, there's no telling what you could learn. So, or just shoot somebody a message. So just honestly, social media and just talking to other people. And then kind of it's on you as an individual to delineate the information, what is actually valuable, and then what might be, okay, this is just someone trying to either sell something or the thing that they're into now, you know? And that's not even bad. It's just like, what is something that I am going to benefit from here? And then maybe leave the rest behind, but don't completely discount it. I've never been one of those guys to be like, oh, that's complete bullshit, or that's complete, like, that's stupid. I don't do the carnivore diet, but I know there's in certain contexts, there's an incredible value to the carnivore diet. I don't do keto, but there's an incredible value in certain contexts for the keto diet. Same thing could be applied to any training methodology, any approach to nutrition, any approach to drug use or drug implementation. And it's just on the individual, on the consumer, to delineate which one is valuable and what might not be. Yeah. So
your diet probably doesn't have a name, right?
No, it's just eating well and timing certain nutrient intake for certain things that I want to have happen. So
before we get too far away from it, because on the previous podcast you had mentioned that you had, I forgot the exact words you put it, but you had some setbacks growing up. You even said that you had tried to commit suicide, and then fast forwarding to more recent with like the neck issue and not being able to use your arm. What makes you keep going? Like, why didn't you? How come you didn't give up even when you were a kid?
I gotta credit my dad. You know, like, my dad's my best friend, and he's been one of the biggest reasons that, like, he's taught me how much value there is in just continuing on no matter the odds, because he's had many instances where he's had to do the same thing. And it's just so as stupid as it is. And it's like this, I was raised Roman Catholic. I went to Jesuit college. I don't practice religion currently, but I believe there is like we're too interesting and unique to be here just not for a reason. I think there's something out there. I don't know what the fuck it is. I never will know until I die, and I probably won't know after, because I'm not gonna know I'm dead, you know. But when I tried to commit suicide, I actually used my dad's M1 911, which is a pistol, and the gun jammed. I pulled the trigger, and it just didn't go. And I was like, click, 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 what the fuck? And went like that, and it shot a hole through the ceiling.
The fuck?
So, I don't know. Could be coincidence, but having that happen, I was like, as pissed off and angry as I was, because it was just rage. It was unadulterated rage that put me in a position to want to commit suicide. But looking back on it, and I get like goosebumps talking about it, but it's like, I'm here for something. I gotta be here for something, you know? And no matter how hard things have gotten, because I've been divorced, I've lost jobs, I've gotten screwed in like business dealings and stuff like that, but it's on me to be the individual and figure out how to react to it and handle myself and get through it. Because my dad always said, like, as stupid as it is, it's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. You just got to get there. And the only way to make it okay is you getting there. So I just keep getting there and I keep going because I don't know how to do anything else. And it's interesting to talk about because it's just interesting timing, because a week ago I did something that I didn't think I would ever do again. I hit a total PR. And as stupid and small and inconsequential as something as dumb as a powerlifting competition, because who gives a fuck? In the grand scheme of things, it's
I do.
I do too. I do too. But as a whole, you look at it and you're like, okay, who cares? But that right there is just the epitome of just hard work and perseverance and determination and a direct output for me individually that I didn't give up and I'm still here. And the efforts that I give still matter. So that is just so rewarding to me. And if I did give up, I would have never been able to feel that. I wouldn't be who I am today. And that's one of the reasons I'm so goddamn fortunate. So
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about sleep all the time on the podcast because it's one of the biggest things that helps you with your health and fitness, your recovery, your muscle gain, your fat loss, everything. That's why we've partnered with 8 Sleep for such a long time now, because the technology behind the mattress allows you to track your heart rate, the amount of times it takes you to fall asleep, your tosses and turns, your heart rate variability. It changes its temperature through the night based off how you sleep, but not only yourself, but maybe your partner on the other side of the bed. It is an amazing mattress. Andrew, how can they learn more?
Yes, head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject. That's 8 spelled out, EIGHT, sleep.com/powerproject. Along with more information, you guys will actually save $150 off of your entire order automatically. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
That's it.
There's nothing better than a good comeback, you know?
Seriously.
So when things are rough, you know, you can, I mean, it's not easy. Like when things are tough for you, that's just the way it feels. And that's your perception of things, and things suck and things are hard and things are rough. But sometimes it's like the making of a superhero. I was listening to a thing about Eminem the other day, and there were stories that I never even heard of about him. He got some guy hit him in the head with a snowball, and the snowball had like something in it that knocked him unconscious. The guy did it like in the bathroom at school, and he was knocked out. He was unconscious. He had a concussion. And I guess he went to the hospital. He was there for like 10 days. But he just like went through like all this stuff. He had to like relearn how to walk. It took him years, I guess, to learn how to do a bunch of different stuff, learn how to talk. And then it's like...
And think about who that is.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, maybe that fucking snowball did... Maybe that snowball is like kind of the making of a superhero or making of a superstar rapper, you know? Just his lifestyle growing up, he was, you know, very poor, and most people know this story and 8 Mile and all that stuff. But it's just interesting because it's like when someone's going through all that, it would be nearly impossible to like think of yourself like one day, like all this shit that's happening to me, that's bad. It's going to make me so fucking strong. It's going to be unbelievable. And while that would be a cool mantra to have, it's hard when you're in those times.
Absolutely. And that's the part where it is a struggle, you know, because you like, even being where I am now, like it's given me such an amazing perspective, because like, even if I have this big meet coming up at the end of October, and even if like, let's say I bomb out, you know, it would suck, but it's like, I've been in worse positions and I've been at the bottom. So it's like, I know that I can come back. Someone who hasn't been there before and they find their bottom, it's so hard to reassure them that like you can get out of it. But the only way that they can figure out that they can get out of it, just like the only way that someone can figure out like what works for them in training or what they can buy into, it's for them to do it. And I think it's one of the reasons I'm so like transparent, or I talk so much about this shit, and I talk about going to therapy. I talk about like just being a human, not just a power lifter on Instagram and all that stuff. it shows people that it's okay to be that, and it's okay to feel your shit and like be in the shit for a while, but you just have to keep moving because you can't stay there. If you stay there, it will kill you 100%. But getting out of it, the only way to get out of it is to keep going, no matter how hard it feels.
Y'all remember we had Ben Alderman on? Remember what he was talking about like what makes like a great athlete
Yep.
is injury. And when he said that, I was like, do you have to have, like, does that have to happen? And for you, do you think that this experience is something that wasn't potentially necessary for you to be able to reach the levels that you're currently at and maybe that you're trying to get to?
I would agree 100% because like Mark talked about yesterday, the first time we met or the first time like we saw one another in person was at Reebok Record Breakers in 2016. And I was not the same person. I may have been very strong, but I was not the same man. I was a kid. I was an immature asshole who thought his shit didn't stink and thought he was a badass. And if I continued on that track and didn't,
you were very nice, but I did think all the things you just said.
Yes, yeah. I was very, very polite. I was like, I respect my elders, but everybody get the fuck out of my way. Fuck you, that type of thing. But that's what I meant by it gave me perspective. Like it made me not only become a better athlete, but it demanded of me to become a better person and a better individual in both the way that I approach my athletics, but the way that I approach my emotional health, my mental health, and the value that I place on myself as an individual. Because I like my Instagram handle was Joe Sullivan Powerlifter at some point. And it's like I remember doing that. I literally just copied Dan Green because it was Dan Green Powerlifter, and it's like I'm gonna be that fucking guy. That's me, you know. And I did, but then having an injury like this or coming to a point where you have to adapt and change, you realize you are not just what you are able to do. You're not just your athletic achievements or like your job title or your business or whatever. You are an individual as well. And the injury itself really, really made me figure out who the fuck I am, you know? So as horrible as it was and as depressed I got and the amount of therapy that I had to do to get through it, I am grateful for that too, because I wouldn't be who I am and I wouldn't be as like, and I don't want to say I'm like a good person, but I wouldn't have the perspective to be as good or attempt to put out as much good as I can without having experiencing that bad for myself.
I think it's also pretty kind of amazing that it happened to you and that you were able to team up with Jake and Andy, because like the things that you guys did to get you through this injury, I don't know shit about it, but it sounds pretty novel. It sounds like Jake put a lot of like the new pep, these things, and then the fatiguing yourself before, you know, you do certain workouts. It seems like the pieces you guys put together can then be applied to other people that are dealing with something somewhat similar.
And that's the whole purpose of like what we're trying to do with this like book we're writing, because how so many people like you talked about some of your guys like talking about their necks jacked up, and it's like you just can't use your upper body, or like something causes this to lock up. Yep. So many individuals and experience stuff like this, and while the approach that I use specifically may not be applicable to everybody, the fact that this is a common occurrence, not a common occurrence, but common enough to be talked about, if we can kind of put people in a position to understand why it's happening and how they could either avoid it or how they could rectify it through approaching training, not just as a power lifter, but understanding the basics of biology and physiology and adaptations, that puts the power in the hands of those people and will potentially put them in a position where they won't have, like, the level of change and adaptation that I had to go through as an individual, they may not be demanded that same thing. And that could change lives, because how many people go through something like this and they're not as stubborn as I am.
Oh yeah.
And they're just like, I can't fucking do it anymore, because I was so goddamn close so many times walking away. you know? And if we and I could be in a position to help somebody not experience that, you're goddamn right. I'm going to put all of my effort into doing that because I know what it feels like.
Are you always excited to work out?
No, not at all. Who is besides beginners, you know? Look, like think about the stuff that I was doing. I am or was Joe Sullivan powerlifter. Do you think Joe Sullivan powerlifter enjoyed going to the gym and doing like 5 rounds of 3-minute assault bikes followed by 5 sets of 60-second constant tension machine press into push-ups with a kettle on top of kettlebell handles with 5-second negatives and 5-second concentrics? Like, no, not at all. I like lifting heavy. I like squatting heavy. I like being big, strong, blast heavy metal, fuck yeah, let's do this shit type of guy. But I love the process and I love the outcomes and I love knowing that everything that what I put into it is what I am going to get out of. So that makes doing the stuff that isn't exactly the most fun 1,000,000 times worth it for me. And what? It's the contrived posts everybody loves to share on Instagram where it's like discipline trumps motivation, and you have fucking everybody shares that shit, and it's like you fucking skipped the gym last week. Shut the fuck up. Why are you even posting that? But it's true. Yeah. Because if you know that this is a direct, what you get out of it is a direct output from what you put into it, it makes it a lot, and by understanding the base level of like why this is happening, it makes it so easy to do what you need to do. And it's enjoyable, even if it's not the most fun sometimes. The outcome is the point.
Have you ever gone to the gym and done like 1 rep?
And just left? Yeah. Yeah. I've had days like that. I feel like everybody's had, or like you've walked on the treadmill and been like, I'm out of here. Well, most recently, like I have the Dragon's Lair t-shirt on. It's Flex Lewis's gym in Las Vegas. Around the Olympia time, I literally went there, walked for 10 minutes on the treadmill, and was like, fuck this. No way. There was a camera here, ass cheeks out here, camera here, like 3 dudes with their shirts off. 4 TikTok kids all with the same haircut and the cross earring, and I'm like, no,
the cross earring.
I'm out. I'm hitting the same fucking Icarus pose like for 40 fucking minutes in the mirror, and I'm like, guys, go do a bicep curl and it would look better. What the fuck? God damn, dude. But I've had days. We've all had days like that, I feel like.
Oh, aren't they called broccoli heads? Am I correct in that? Because they got the same haircut. Yeah.
I think the cool thing about that is even if you only did go to the gym and did something really minimal, you still fucking made it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have all the clients that I talk to who are like, oh man, it was a shit session today, but like I did what I could. It's like, that's so much better than any of the alternative. Like you're not always pumped up to like go to work. I'm sure you're not always pumped up to do a podcast. Like something like you have argument, you get like a stressful like business phone call or something like that, and it's like, fuck, I don't want to do this today. But that's where the discipline comes in. And it's like if you approach training or approach your lifestyle or like your betterment as an individual as like this is what you do, it only makes sense to get it done. Because we don't always have to get hyped up or take 200 milligrams of caffeine to brush our teeth, but we do it every morning, right? Or wipe your ass. It's like if you approach training as a minimum and like this is a requirement for me to do something.
I don't have that much motivation to wipe my ass.
Yeah, me either.
That's why you got a bidet.
You gotta get a bidet.
That'd be horrible. Yeah, bidet is great.
Yeah.
Bidet is nice, but what a horrible habit that would be to sink into, to not have the motivation to wipe your ass.
Did you experience his bidet at his place?
No, I didn't. Do you actually have a bidet?
You guys missed out the best part.
That's awesome. I used the squatty potty today in the bathroom. That was the first time I used one.
I'm surprised you don't have one.
I'm probably gonna buy one after this. There's just so many gadgets here. It's just like this is all. I'm standing on this mat.
How you liking that mat? By the way,
I love it, man. I don't know who these guys are, but I'm bought in. Like I love them. I don't know who
What's
they
the
are.
brand? What's it called?
Wild Gym. We'll do something, but wildgym.com. We got these nature mat things underneath our feet, stretch out our toes and shit.
Yeah. Foot health. foot health, something.
We're going to get into that, but I do want to ask you, you were mentioning how like you're not married into doing one thing, one diet, one type of workout. But one thing that like we've been seeing on like your socials, we've been seeing some stuff from David Weck and some of those concepts. So what are some of those things that you've been adding into your training? Why? And has it been helpful for you?
So working backwards, absolutely, it's been helpful. I feel like a fucking badass, like after 7 years of not hitting a PR because of all this integration of like new and innovative stuff. And I don't remember the second one, but it's like, yes, it has helped me. And I love the integration of all this new stuff because like we were talking about earlier, it's finding what is valuable in my context and applying it for myself and maybe understanding like why it could be useful elsewhere, but not applying all of it to me, but taking what is going to be beneficial and then putting it into my own stuff. Like I met David at a Landmine U certification course. I went to
Alex's place, maybe?
Yeah, no, it was a Pacific Beach training in San Diego. And it was like a 3-day landmine course. Alex invited me out just because I talked to him periodically on Instagram. And he's like, just come take it. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I did. And I thought it was amazing because it's basically so many people get brought up in powerlifting and strength training in the way that like we want to resist rotation.
Yeah.
And when you're squatting, benching, and deadlifting, obviously you want to resist rotation. You don't want any like spinal movement. We talked about it today. It's like it's bad news pretty quickly when you have something on your back and your spine wants to move like this. But if you kind of just step back and understand like, okay, if we want to resist rotation, how do you develop a conscious control of certain musculature in that range of motion? You actually train that range of motion. So that's kind of been my approach and my integration with David Weck's principles and Landmine U's principles, where if I want to resist this rotation when I'm squatting, benching, or deadlifting, then in theory I should be proficient at the actual process of rotating and training that range of motion so that I know how to resist it and I know how to prevent it from occurring when I don't want it to occur because I know how to make it happen when I do want it to occur. So super valuable, and it just teaches you honestly like how much more you can get out of certain ranges of motion in certain positions, because like you shot me a message when I was doing those the twist lunges or whatever, and was like, slow it down a little bit. And that's kind of a combination because I know if you slow it down and understand, okay, just like basic anatomical knowledge, the lat is big muscle on your back. Where's the lowest portion that the lat inserts on? It's on the superior iliac spine of the pelvis. So it crosses the hip. So any joint that a muscle crosses, it's going to act upon. So that one of the reasons why anybody who shrugs when they breathe in, when they squat, it's not the greatest, because if you flex your traps and lift your shoulders, your lats have to relax. And if your lats cross the pelvis, do you want an unstable pelvis when you're squatting? No, it's bad. Bad news bears. But if you understand, okay, this is like the anatomical knowledge that I have, the lat gets plugged into my pelvis. If I incorporate these David Weck principles and I hike this side of my pelvis up, flex my glute a little bit, and try to connect the landmark of my lat and my elbow into this side, I can get just a little bit more muscular engagement than I would otherwise. And when you're someone who is trying to squat 850 pounds, you want to maximize every little bit that you can get, because those little bits add up cumulatively. 1% better may not be much in one training session, but if you make 1% improvement or 1% better each training session for the course of 5 years, incredible improvement. That's compounding interest just in the context of training. So that's why I love that stuff. It's the only way to get better, and the only way to do things that have either never been done or you've never been able to do, is to do stuff that you've never done before and be willing to try things that you've never done before. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, and what's it hurt? You know, you try it and you're like, that was crap.
Right.
Yeah, or like maybe I don't remember exactly what they showed me, so let me try it again.
Yeah.
You know, and you just experiment.
Yep, exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about like figuring out what you can do in training and what you're going to get the most out of, because it may not be optimal in the sense of like pulling this in the scapular plane with this particular range of motion across the line of pull, yada yada, biomechanic stuff. Maybe I say, okay, tilt the pelvis a little bit and squeeze a little bit harder. If you can just make that mental connection, training and sports performance in the context of like lifting weights as a sport, it's not just about muscular stimulus or proper technique. There's an aspect of neuromotor control, the motor cortex activation, and that neuromuscular connection, and then the expression of all of that when you get to the platform or the stage or whatever. So just by kind of narrowing your focus on just one thing and not being willing to think outside the box, so many people who are deemed as like intellectuals these days are really pigeonholing themselves and limiting their forward potential and the forward potential for the people that they're educating, because they're not willing to think outside the box, in my opinion.
Dude, I want to ask, I'm really curious about this, because you mentioned like when you met Mark at that Record Breakers meet, how you were kind of an asshole in a way, but I would assume also because I had a stage where when I was younger, I felt like I knew it all. I felt like I didn't know it all. I knew I had more to learn, but I felt like I got most of this shit handled, right? And then very quickly, I think just learning more on the podcast and being exposed to more people, I got out of the mindset that I've got this shit handled, and more so put myself in a place where I'm just like, I want to improve, I want to learn, I want to apply new things so I can get better. And you're particularly dangerous because you have a world record squat already. You're an elite level athlete, but you're someone who's continuously turning stones over and trying new things and applying new things. What shifted your mindset towards having the openness to do that? Because most people that have gotten to like that are at somewhat of a high level, or they're young, they think that new things are just fads or things that are going to be non-consequential towards their success. And you're the exact opposite of that.
Well, thank you, first off, because I think that's high praise. But also, honestly, it's not a very positive answer that I have for that one. It was honestly the desperation that I got to, because I very much fit that bill of thinking like I'm the shit. I know what I'm talking about. I have like 2 degrees in this. I know what I'm talking about. How dare anybody else think like this fucking works? That's stupid hack shit. Fuck that. Like, what, are you kidding me? You know? But getting to the point where it's like, okay, I know all these things. I'm applying all these things. But then I'm like, why am I not getting better? Why isn't it fucking working? What the fuck is going on? And I get to that point where it's like, wait a minute. I might need to broaden my horizons a little bit or quit. And there's a reason that my coaching title, like my coaching business, the name is Adapt or Die, because that was the very same feeling that I felt myself get into, or situation that I felt myself get into, where it was, I need to be open enough to adapt and change the way that I approach this, or else I may as well be fucking dead, you know? So it wasn't some like inspirational moment. It was like, I fucking suck. I was really good and I blew up, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep fucking getting better every goddamn year. It's fucking total PR, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'm going to keep coming, you know? And I get to the point where it's like, I keep getting beat. What the fuck is going on? Because I'm doing everything that I can and it's just not fucking working. Holy shit. And I just got to a point where it's like, I need to approach this differently, and it's growing up. Because I mean, I got divorced, the like business stuff, like just you learn eventually. Basically, life demands change from you, and you either decide to change because it's demanded of you, or you maybe it's demanded of you, and then you take initiative from it and keep going, you know. And that's what I feel like the position that I'm in now, because I was forced to realize that I know nothing. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, where like you think the less you know, the more you think you know, and then the more you know, the more you realize that there is so much out there that is left to be uncovered. So, yeah.
It's scary. There's a lot to learn, right?
Well, that's why I'm so, and I've said it a million times this weekend already, but I have no idea the landscape of what any of this is going to look like in 5 or 10 years. Honestly, the new knowledge, the new application, the new drugs, the new training, the new approaches, the new gadgets, who knows? There's so much out there. Not just in the realm of like strength training or sports performance, but just life in general. So it's nuts. It's exciting.
How has your social media fans, how have they received some of your exploration into some new stuff?
They like, honestly, people are big fans of it. You know, they see how well, like I have a pretty dedicated like following. Jake jokes and he's like, you have like a little cult.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
It's an amazing thing when you meet a fan or something, they flip the fuck out.
Yeah,
right?
dude. And it's like, but it's another thing that I'm super grateful for. And I really think the reason that that's the case is because I hate this word, but it's like, I'm so real on social media, but it's like I just portray myself. People are like, "Oh man, you're exactly like you are on the internet." And it's like that's because I just post on my fucking phone. I'm just hanging out, dude. Yeah, you know, like I'm just here, and it really resonates.
So down to earth.
Oh yeah. But it just resonates with people when you like lead with yourself and you don't try to be anybody else. And like I express myself when I'm frustrated, I post about being frustrated. When I'm happy, I post about being happy. And I really just, part of growing up, I really just kind of lead with this Jesus, this rhymes. I feel like this is a phrase, an attitude of gratitude. I don't know where the fuck that came from.
I cringed, but it's good.
I don't know.
It's good. It's good.
It's still a thing.
I'm going to write that down every morning.
I lead with an attitude of gratitude.
Oh my fucking God. Who the fuck am I?
What a great
that a
t-shirt.
shirt.
Yeah.
Boom.
I've said fuck too little on it. Fuck cocksucker shit. Okay. All right. God.
You gotta like protein leveraging right with the F word. You gotta.
Yeah, my protein folding is all fucked up. Jake's gonna appear and throw a rock at me. I don't know. But seriously, it's like there's a reason that I'm so grateful and that I speak as if I'm so fortunate, because I am really fortunate to have the amount of support that I have. Because even through like some of the recent drama stuff where it was like the cover up with the USPA and all that stuff, the amount of support that I got from people and people asking me, just saying like, dude, thank you so much for what you're doing. That lets me know that I'm making the right decisions, you know? And then when I succeed and hit, like last week, I hit the record, hit the total PR. Every time I compete, even if I don't do well, I come out feeling so much more loved than I went in going into it, because people are so vocal in their support for me. And it applies to the same thing when I do different stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm trying this out. I've had people be like, dude, it's so cool to see you so willing to try new things and think outside the box. And I appreciate it, because like sometimes it looks goofy. Sometimes it doesn't work, you know, but sometimes it does. And the only way that we can find out what is valuable and what isn't valuable is to apply it for ourselves and fucking see. So yeah, people are into it, and I'm happy about it, because I'm gonna fucking do it whether they like it or not. So I don't know.
Do you know what your testosterone levels are at? How about your estrogen? How about your prolactin? How about your cholesterol? If the answer is, I don't know what they're at, well, we've been talking about blood work for a long time now. That's why we partnered with Merrick Health, a company owned by Derek for More Plates, More Dates. Now, with Merrick, you can get yourself something called the Power Project Panel, which will give you 26 different labs that will help you understand what's going on underneath the hood. After that, you'll be able to be partnered with one of their patient care coordinators, which will give you interventions that range from lifestyle, supplements, to potential hormonal health treatments that can help move you in the right direction. But it all starts with knowing what's going on down here. So get your blood work done. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, we have two options for you guys. Head over to merrickhealth.com/powerproject. That's MAREK health.com/powerproject. There you guys will see the Power Project panel that Nsima was just talking about. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $101 off of that panel. Now, if you want to custom select your own panel, you guys can use promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off all labs. Again, that's at merrickhealth.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
What about stuff with your girlfriend? Does things ever get weird via social media with both you guys being like in the limelight a bit?
Kinda, like sometimes, but not really. Like the biggest obstacle or the biggest hurdle that we have to face or that we encounter, and like I wish she was here to give her perspective because she's hilarious, but like she hates it sometimes because people will like look at her and be like, "Oh, you're Joe Sullivan's wife, right?" They're like, "Oh, you're Joe Sullivan's girlfriend." And she's like, "I am also Brianny Terry. I have broken 3 all-time world records. Fuck you." Yeah. You know, so it's just stuff like that. But then there are instances where like she has such a die-hard following. She's the same way because she's just leads with her best foot and is like a good person on social media.
Pull her up. You need to see how jacked she is.
Yeah, she's also incredibly jacked and strong. She hit a 1388 total, like at 167, squatted 507, benched like 292 and deadlifted 606.
Jesus, those are some crazy numbers.
Pull up that last spread right there with the pink knee sleeves. Because the fuck? What is up with her legs, dog?
I don't know, dude.
Her waist is so small.
She should have been. She's gonna blush. She hears you. But no, dude, she is one of the most gifted athletes I've ever fucking met. Like she is incredible when it comes to her own athletic ability and like her ability, not only her ability to build muscle as a female, but also her ability to express that strength. Like
Does it annoy you sometimes? So you're like, what the fuck?
Dude, you have no fucking idea. Because like I went 7 years without hitting a PR and she goes like 6 months. She's like, this is fucking bullshit. This is stupid. I'm going to go do yoga. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot, dude. But
she's like, I only got a 30-pound PR. You're like, what? Dude.
And look, she's like, she hits like 100s on the dumbbell bench or whatever.
What?
It's nuts. I don't know. They might be 80s. I can't remember.
These are 85s. Bro.
85s. It's just
she's
dumb.
Manhandling them. Yep.
What's her
handling them?
What's her bench?
Best ever is like 303, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Look at her just chucking those weights
Dude,
around.
it's stupid. She's incredible. She's one of the most gifted athletes on the planet, and she's also an incredible coach. Like she's one of the best coaches that I've ever seen. Just in her ability to basically like just not dumb stuff down, but make it understandable for her athletes. She is also in a women's physique prep currently. Either
women's
going
physique. Oh, so she doesn't do wellness. She does physique.
Yeah, physique.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So a little bit more muscularity than wellness, and you can tell by her back. But yeah, if you go to her stage shots a little bit down,
older?
I think a little older. Yeah. Because she did NPC USA's last year. And she got in her first bodybuilding season, she got 4th at USA's.
Whoa.
Which is like phenomenal. Like people don't do that. So she's in another prep. She's going to be doing either Junior Nats, which is end of June, or USA's again, which is end of July. Kind of leaning towards USA's because it's in Vegas and it would just be super easy. So yeah, she kicks ass, dude. She's good at what she does.
She's a little jealous of Jake, though. You and Jake being so close.
A little bit. Yeah, we Jake coaches her too, and we actually had a discussion a while back where she's like, "Hey, if you're gonna talk about my prep, talk about it with me." Because it's my coach too, and I'm like, well, he's my best friend, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I get it though, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So it's just. That's the only thing, like that's the obstacle where it's just kind of like because we're all so integrated with one another, it's like, okay, she's going to talk about my stuff with Jake, but then I'm like out of the loop and I'm like, wait, I didn't know you knew that. And then I'm going to talk with Jake about like her stuff. And then she's like, wait, I didn't know I was doing that. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't know. Yeah. But that's the only thing. But it's a really awesome, cohesive relationship, honestly, because we fly the flag for one another when we need to, like basically being like more supportive when like I'm deep into a prep, she'll like pick up the slack a little bit. When she's deep in a prep, I'll pick up the slack a little bit, have a little bit more patience. And we both understand because we're both athletes, but we're also both like relatively emotionally intelligent people. it works really, really well because it all comes back to communication and like expectations on like, this is my focus right now. I'm going to have to pull back a little bit in some context. And then that's your focus right now. And you're going to pull back a little bit in some context. And then normal relationship stuff, because we're booking a all-inclusive trip to Mexico after my meet in November, because it's like, okay, we're going to have a week where it's like, we're not athletes. We're going to be like, blacking out on a beach, smoking some weed, hanging out. It's going to be good. So just making stuff like that where it's like, okay, we're going to portion off some time where it's like, we're not athlete Joe or athlete Bree or coach Joe or coach Bree. It's like, we're just hanging out in a relationship, being cool.
Do you train together or go to the gym together, or is it like separate cars and separate times and shit like that?
Both. We do both. It depends on the session and like where either one of us are at in training, because like going into my meet, it would be like we would drive separate because
you're gonna be there for 4 hours.
Exactly, you know, and she's in bodybuilding prep, so she can get it done in like an hour, you know. But now that I'm in more of like a developmental block and like an off season, if you will, Jake and I actually structured my training so that there are going to be like 2 or 3 days that I actually do with her, and we're not doing the same movements, but it's like similar and complementary enough that we can like train together. Because that's when we started dating. That was a huge thing that we did. We always trained together because it was just fun. And it's like we both enjoy spending time with one another in the gym as athletes because we kind of feed off of one another. But at the same time, it's sometimes she's got her blinders on and I'm like, I'm not going to fucking talk to her today. And then there's other times where it's I have my headphones in and she's like, you can go over there. And I'm like, got it. Okay, we're just going to avoid that. So it just depends. And it's like, it depends on the timing of the year, depends on the training session, and it depends on whether or not we're pissed at one another outside the gym, you know, because we're both very, very like, not domineering personalities, but we're both like alpha type people. So it's like when it fits, it's great.
Yeah.
And then it's very easy to be like, hey, what are you doing today? And I just say it a little bit like an asshole, a little bit blunt. She's like, what the fuck do you mean by that? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I meant by that. What do you mean by that? And then it's just like, okay, what do
you think
go
I
to
meant?
the gym. And that's when she goes to Dragon's Lair and I go to Sin City. So that's how it goes. But it works, man. It's really cool. Another thing I'm really fortunate for, because like she inspired with her dedication to bodybuilding and like the adherence to that degree. I tell her, like when she's in it, but she inspires me every day because like struggling with like food and having like the relationship that I did with it, and still like I'm in a great position now. I do everything I'm supposed to, but there's still the desire to like binge or cheat or be like, I missed a meal, I'm just gonna DoorDash bullshit, like that type of thing. Seeing her, seeing her go through the same thing but resist it. I'm like, damn, you know, like she can do it, I can fucking do it. It's an inspirational thing. It's a powerful pairing that we have. It's really cool.
What you just said right there, that specific scenario is the same shit that my girl does. Like she does bikini competitions, but she's so diligent with nutrition. And I am diligent enough. But like I'll be the one to be like, hey, you want to DoorDash some sushi? And she'll be like, I got to stick to this today. I'll be like, you're such an adult. I'll stick to it today too.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Because what? You're like 250 pounds, like 6 foot something. It's like, I can fit it in. I'm still going to have abs. It's all right. And it's like, I got a heavy squat tomorrow. I'm gonna be cool. The burger is fine. It'll be all right.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, it legitimately it inspires you. It's cool because it's like someone who is going through the same stuff that you are. They deal with the damn near same emotional stress that you do, demands of life, all that stuff, but they choose to do it.
Yeah.
And when you look at it and you're like, that's just a choice that they're making. It's like, God, I'm a fucking bitch.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, how soft am I? And I'm like, fuck, okay, all right, I got to do this. So.
Oh, that's real. Dude, you walked around, I saw you walking around in some Vibrams, right? So like, what got you, how deep are you into that stuff? And like, how's it helped you, if it has?
So we kind of had this conversation the other day. Like it's another one of those where it's like, what is valuable to me, and then what is kind of like just a little extra that I may not necessarily need to focus on. And I genuinely think like rooting and your ability to like feel your feet and maintain even pressure on the ground, huge deal when it comes to squatting, benching, and deadlifting. Like those are our points of contact. That's where we put force into the ground. But that not old school approach, but the like when I was coming up, like 2015, 2016, 2017, that emphasis on rooting, it's one of those things that kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit.
Yeah.
And that because people think about just grabbing and gripping. And when you think about just grabbing and screwing and gripping and feeling the ground with your feet, you forget about one of the most important parts, which is putting force through the ground. It's still an exchange of energy and a push, no matter how you think about it. So like Mark and I were talking like yesterday in the gym, and it's like when you obviously you want to try to keep your arch and maintain your arch health, but if you unrack 800 pounds, you're not going to keep your arch. Your foot's going to flatten out and widen out. And think about it when you cut like with Wex principles and like cutting on the inside of the foot and twisting and rotating, it's the same thing, but just in a different context. You need to be both proficient at feeling and rooting and gripping the ground, but then also understanding when it comes to the exchange of energy and the output of force. I'm not going to focus on my big toe, my pinky toe, and my heel. I'm going to drive as much fucking power as I can through the middle of my foot and try to keep balance, and whatever happens upstream, cool. I'm good. It's just, I'm big on it because I never leave the house without my toe spacers. I'm always digging in my feet. Like I'm legitimately going to buy one of these mats because I have a standing desk and I'm literally just going to be like this all day because it's fantastic. But it's also one of those things, like I'm not going to hyper fixate on lifting barefoot, walking barefoot, doing all of this because it's one of like Duffin's old saying, or I don't know if it's his saying, but I got it from him because it resonated with me. He always used to say in like the first Kabuki movement seminars, once you know the rules, you know how to break them. So that's the thing. When you know the rules and you understand the principles behind rooting and even foot pressure, then you can understand, okay, I can still apply these principles, but I'm going to tweak it to the way that it's going to make the most advantage for me in the context of my sports performance, because I squat in heels. If I was a true barefoot guy, I'd be like, just work on your ankle mobility, you lazy piece of shit. What the fuck, man? But I'm a power lifter. Heels give me a slight advantage on achieving depth and staying a little bit more upright. I can still create lateral heel tension and pressure through my heels, pressure through the midfoot, and root with a bigger shoe because I wear a half size larger to give me a little bit more space. And I can still apply those principles while I'm actually breaking the rules, but it's ultimately setting me up for better success because it's in the context of my sports performance and my particular situation.
Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
That doesn't matter. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. We got a bunch more content coming your way, so check on the previous episodes we just did, and then also what we got upcoming. Make sure you guys don't miss that. So hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, and follow the podcast at MB Power Project all over the place. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima. Where you at?
Discord's down below. If you have any questions for Joe or questions in general, comment down below at Nsima Inyang on Instagram, YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Joe, where can people find you?
On Instagram at joesullivan_AOD. And my website is theaodcollective.com. You can send me an email there or send me a DM. I may not get back to your DM very quickly, but I will get back to it at some point. I'm just on Instagram less. If you want to get to me, hit me up on my website, and it's way more reliable to get to me there. So
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
Okay.